to the Garrison Board of Education regular meeting of October 7th, 2020. Excited to be here. We're going to start with the roll call, and I will call the roll. Just use the mic for this one. Okay. Jocelyn Apicella? Here. David Gilbert? Here. James Hook?
Here.
Madeline Julian? Here. Courtney McCarthy? Here. Matthew Spicer?
Here.
And I'm here as well. I shall now lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have acceptance of the agenda changes. Anyone have any proposed changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, I'm going to read the recommended action. Be it resolved. Matthew Spicer.
So I just heard my name, but I keep freezing for like 30 seconds at a time, so I don't know.
We're voting on.
We're on item number 2.
We're going to all contribute $50,000 to Gus.
We're on item number 2, and it's the accept the agenda as presented.
Accept the agenda.
Yes, that I can get behind. Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, just type up if for any reason you've frozen or something and you don't hear me, please. All right, now I'm going to move on to President's remarks. Let's start with, first, we have been open with students in class for over a month now. I want to thank everyone who's making that possible. That is our teachers, our administrative staff. Thank you all for washing your hands, for using the hand sanitizer, for wearing your mask. Thank you to the children for wearing their masks all day. Thank you to the teachers that are wearing their masks all day. And for those of you who are home on iTutor, I hope you are enjoying the program. Again, if you have any thoughts or concerns, you're always welcome to reach out. We're happy to welcome students back in from iTutor if they are interested. I also want to express the board's sincere appreciation to Susan Choi and Lefty Nagoros and their team of volunteers who are the chairs of the Phillipstown Garden Club. They spent this past Saturday ripping out weeds, pruning bushes, removing dead trees and vines. This is really important because right now, in front of our building, so for anyone who's driving by, you can thank the Garden Club for that, and we are incredibly grateful. That's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Carl.
Thank you, Senator. Right now we're at 1.4%, and that's not Garrison, that's Putnam County. But I think it's worth mentioning that both Rockland and Orange counties are up about 4%, maybe a bit higher. And those are close by. And we still, I want to emphasize, I think we can't emphasize enough to stay I know it's always hard when you miss some school, but it is better to thank you to John Masick and Phillipstown Scout Troop 437. The last weekend of September, they asked permission to camp out in the school park. More outdoor learning. We just recently had wireless access installed up at the pavilion. So there are 2 tents adjacent to the pavilion, and now that whole area will have wireless access. Met with the middle school team earlier this week. They're setting up a schedule where every subject area teacher has 1 full day outdoors. So that means they'll be out there for 6 periods. So there'll be a rotation, and all the students will get that experience. Right now, they're using the yoga mats, which were donated by GSEF. So thank you again to GSEF. But we're also looking at furniture. And Sarah, you actually made a recommendation that looks really interesting. The staff and I took that, and I'm happy to announce that there'll be even more outdoor learning in the weeks and months ahead. And we'll do it as long as we can until the cold weather sets in. A few announcements on behalf of PTA. First, PTA organized a fantastic school photo day today. Thank you. It was held outdoors. It was very efficient. A photographer will be here again on October 15th, which is a Thursday from 8:30 to 11:30 for makeup pictures. And also if children are learning remotely at home and parents would like them to have a school photo, it'll be outdoor in front of the building. Is about that. It's completely online this year. You can purchase your books at Split Rock Books. The website is splitrockbks.com, and that book there started on plan, which is a requirement from New York State, is right now posted in draft form on the website. It's a requirement to post it for 30 days in draft form before the board can approve it. It's also a requirement to conduct a public hearing. So our next board meeting, which is October 21st, if there is any feedback, we would listen to it. You do not have to wait for the board meeting. If you review it and have a comment or recommendation, you can certainly email me. But it is something that I think it's worth mentioning that most of it is required. We don't have that much say in it, but of course it's tailored to our district. It does include everything like the required plans and drills and all the things that are necessary. And related to this, on Friday, we must once a year conduct an emergency management plan drill. That's a pretty fancy title, but basically it means we have to practice dismissing school early. So dismissal on Friday, October 9th will be at 2:45. I sent out one notice last week, but I'll send another blackboard out tomorrow just to remind parents, and that goes for buses as well as parent pickup. So again, 2:45 p.m. this Friday, and that is coordinated with all schools in the region. That goes for Haldane and both. Some mission statement for our group, as well as some priorities. And we are very close to opening up our work to a larger group of people. So stay tuned for more information on that. But you know, it's a small group right now. We did a lot of training starting in the summer and into the fall, and we are very excited. Hearing more about our work. And I appreciate, you know, right here we have David Gelber, Jocelyn Apicello, and Madeline Julian. Three of our board members have put a lot of time and effort into this, and I do appreciate that. And that's all I have for now. Sure.
Oh, sorry. Just about the outdoor learning, you said that you've got plans in place with the middle school. And so is there plannings for the elementary school as well in the coming weeks, you know, once it's rolled out?
Yes, Jocelyn, the elementary school has been, for the most part, using the courtyards. And there are times where they're out on the, where the fifth grade classrooms are. I think you know where the other tent is, but they're not holding full classes. Also, the primary grades are out back in the courtyard area behind the kindergarten, and our band, our music classes are outdoors regularly, as well as art. So there's not as much, but the furniture that we're looking at has like a middle school version, and then there is a version for smaller students, for the younger students. So we're going to share it with the primary teachers as well, and if they are interested, we may consider setting up both.
Any other questions for Carl before we move on? Awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay. From O'Connor Davies, I believe it was last week. Is that correct, Chris, or just last week?
Yep.
So excited to see this presentation again. Welcome, Chris. And David, could you turn that so he can see this? He did get to see it once last week, but I know he's been excited to see it.
Well, thank you very much for having us here, and on behalf of the firm, I'd like to thank the district and the board for allowing us. They felt safe in the environment you provided. So again, thank you very much. So my name is Chris Kopp. I'm the partner assigned to the audit of Garrison. And I'm going to begin with just talking about the required communications. There's certain things that are in the report that we're required to communicate to the board. We'll then talk about the general thing. Some smaller funds, and we'll just talk about them in general. And then about 330,000 of that number. And that number is due one, you had one less student. And again, during the pandemic, services, were not as available as they had been during the regular school year. Transportation came in 149,000 in the budget. Again, you want transportation. And about 137,000 under on health insurance. And again, the health insurance rates aren't really known when you put your budget together, so you have to try to guess where you think the rate's going to end up. Debt service and transfers out came in basically on budget. Again, on the next slide, we see the 5-year history. You can see that instruction has risen about 10% over the 5 years, again, about 2% a year. That's contractual increases for your teachers and employees. Transportation has actually gone down. I know in the past you worked hard to reduce your routes or maximize your routes, I should say. And price of fuel has been dropping too, so you're getting some savings from there. Debt service is pretty stable, and transfers out, as I said, it's up this year because you did move that money from your future capital project to the actual capital projects. So now, what does all this mean for you? Your fund balance. At the end of 2020, you ended up with $4,193,000 in your fund balance. The prior year, we had about $4.4 million. So as I said, you did utilize about $200,000 of your fund balance. What you have is the board has restricted some money for specific purposes. You put away $90,000 for tax surcharge. So you can see that you have some money put away for tax surcharges. People always file for reduced assessments, and you're allowed to put away based on what is outstanding. ERS retirement contribution. You put away about $850,000 in that account. You did use 131 of it for the 2021 budget, the balance of budget. And as we said to the audit committee, it's probably good that you've been stashing a little bit of funds in here because the New York State retirement system is estimating a 16% increase in the ERS. You have some money in the TRS reserve. That's a brand new reserve. It's limited to 2% of your teacher salaries each year. Unemployment benefit, also debt service. Again, as I said, you've accumulated some debt service reserve. Over the years, when you have a capital project and you bonded it, and you don't spend all the money, that money is restricted to pay debt. And any interest you earn in the capital fund is restricted to pay debt. So if you accumulated about 900,000, you're using almost 400 of the balance this year's budget. Unemployment benefits, 150,000. Future capital projects, you can see it 110,000, and it was $1 million, so you used some of it this year. And employee benefits are the amount of vacation pay, sick time, when employees leave that you're contractually obligated to pay. You've reserved 127,000 for that. In the assigned category, purchase orders, that's the other word for encumbrances, which I already explained. And you have subsequent year expenditures of 415, so you did use 415,000 in addition to those other two items I mentioned, the balance of 21 budget. So again, trying to keep your taxes at a reasonable level. You have a new line this year called state aid reduction. So what's happened is that as a result of all the expenditures the state had for the pandemic, they allowed the governor unilaterally to reduce state aid to municipalities and districts. So what you've done is, just in case they do cut some of your state aid over the next few years, you put away some of your excess surplus. Put away fund, and you have a special purpose fund. Capital Projects Fund has a fund balance right now of $752,000, again related to that transfer to get that project started. School Lunch Fund has about $3,160 in it, and your Special Purpose Fund has $2,731, which is again restricted for scholarships for specific uses. People make donations to the district. On the next page is just a chart of your outstanding debt. Pretty small chart because with this year's budget, you pay off your debt. So you have one payment left of $325,000, might have been paid already. But as of this school year, you'll have all your old debts paid off. The only thing you'll have outstanding is what's known as installment purchase debt, which is some leases for copy machines and equipment. And even after this year, you're down to $5,000. So you've done again, you're almost debt free. And I know you're embarking on a new project. So, but the good news is what it does is as you pay off the old debt, you put the new debt on. And it helps to reduce the impact on your budget. So that's basically your 2020 year at a glance. I'll be more than happy to try to answer anybody's questions.
Before we get to that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Sue, who worked through all of this, put this together. I know basically from that timeline started before our year end. So our year end is June 30th. What you do and for putting this together to lead us to this place where the audit committee, which was Jocelyn, Matthew, and Jesse Linden-Pack, who was our community member, met with you last week. And I came away feeling that we really do, we're in a good position, thanks to how you set us up, to really meet the educational needs of our students, not only for this year, but also in the years to come. So I want to thank you for that. Now, anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Helen, please.
Question. With the 5-year look ahead, and you see a lot of other districts and what's going on with COVID, do you have any recommendations for us on how to
A lot of things got put on hold, and basically districts were scrambling really just to start providing education services. What we did when we came in, we did notice that you had some excess surplus, and that's why we recommended, after consultation with Sue and the superintendent, to establish a state aid reduction line. And that was put aside because you don't know what New York State Ed is going to do as the state faces its fiscal problems. The only place it can turn to is all the municipalities it gives aid to. So not just school districts, but towns, villages, and cities. So you put away, like I said, about $400,000 towards cushioning any of those cuts, so that hopefully it lasts long enough to get us past what's going on right now. I mean, the economy, everybody says it's bouncing back strongly. It's bouncing back, but unemployment is still at very high levels, especially, in some areas. And as unemployment stays high, people can't pay their some have, they did save enough money, especially in transportation lines. Other than that, it's all contractual. You're basically, most of your costs are personnel and fringe benefits.
Any other questions? David, can you turn that just so I can see him in case he has a question? Thank you.
I think you took the wrong seat.
questions, board members, on the audit presentation?
Stole my thunder.
Oh.
So good, good.
It's a good question. The audit is posted, I believe, right on our web. The report is posted on the website for the public.
I haven't received the final draft yet,
So,
so.
but it will.
Will
be.
be, but it's
So-
not
We'll have it
yet.
tomorrow.
For the public, the final audit report will be posted, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the district, the board members. We're here and happy to discuss exciting stuff. And a lot of time and energy went into preparing it, which I greatly appreciated. Yeah. And thank you for coming out in this storm.
No problem. And again, if you do, as a board, if you do have any questions, please feel free to call. I can always attend the meeting or come meet with anybody. Because it's hard to think of every question as you're sitting here with everything else on your agenda. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to come back and meet with you and try to answer them.
I will say that I believe Chris really does mean that. I asked a lot of questions last week, and he's very willing to answer all of them. So, really, if anybody on the board has a question, please let him know. I'm happy to pass them on.
Yeah, we do ask if it just comes through the board president, because otherwise, we could respond 5 times.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you again.
All right, thank you very much. And again, we appreciate everything that you did for us.
Thank you.
Board 2019-2020 school year. I'm going to read the recommended action. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the annual external audit report for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Second. We'll call the roll. Jocelyn Apicella. David Gelber.
Aye.
James Hope.
Aye.
Madeline Julian. Courtney McCarthy.
I'm
Matthew Spicer. Thank you. I vote aye as well. And we have now accepted the external audit report. Thank you again, Chris, and thank you, Sue. Moving on now to financial reports. Next up, we have accept claims audit reports. I'm going to read the recommended action here. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the claims audit reports for August 2020 and September 2020 as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So, second.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on the claims audit reports? I know this is we have a new claims auditor in this position. If you have any and very highly qualified candidates with extensive financial backgrounds, and selected Khadijah. Sue, do you have anything you want to add? She's been working directly with Sue.
Yeah, I only actually met her once. She seems lovely. She's scheduled to be coming in again next week.
Great, thank you, Sue. And she will be, Dusty, I believe she's set up or did attend the training offered.
Yeah, I set her up with that.
The claims auditor reports directly to the board and is responsible for, and Sue, jump in if I mess this up, but looking at every purchase order claim, every check cut, making sure that the amount on the invoice matches the amount on the check, making sure
what's being paid for is pre-approved, that type of thing, so, and make sure there's, yeah, everything's copacetic, so.
Making sure this is okay. I have nothing to add. I think it's great. I love seeing these reports, which I've never, we haven't seen them ever before.
Yeah, I thought they were very detailed and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
There's a check here to really good stuff, I'll say. I was just curious about. LLC, yeah. Okay, good.
The good stuff company, not a business, but really good stuff.
Pretty okay stuff, yeah.
But,
Matthew Spicer? And for July 2020. May I have a motion, please?
So, second.
Great.
oh, 556. And for the investment accounts, we started out with 5.2 million and ended out with 4.8 million. And the main transfer was 500,000 from the investment account to the multi-fund in July to pay bills and salaries. So there really is not that much activity in July.
Okay, do I have any questions?
No.
I'm going to move ahead to a vote. Jocelyn Casello? David Gilbert? Organizing us all and getting us on a schedule is greatly appreciated, all the time and energy. I'm going to turn to Finance Committee first, and our chair of that committee is James.
I don't have the minutes in front of me, but I think we took minutes during that meeting, right? Both of them did.
Please don't read them in.
A better sense of what the budgetary landscape is going to be, and we're going to look at trying to protect the interests of the district in relationship to possible expenditures moving forward, as well as possible loss in revenue in the coming year. So part of that would be developing for ourselves specific goals around understanding how budgeting works a little bit more in depthly so that we can project financially how to move forward. We're also going to look at the next year under specific scenarios, how that will unfold. That was a big part of our conversation, I believe, is that we're hoping to project out under this condition, what will be our financial profile. Under this condition, what will be our financial profile? So one of the conditions would be if we continue with the iTutor through the whole year. If we get aid cut by X, state aid reduced by X. If the CPI, the inflation rate, stays at near zero, what's the implication for taxes? Metaphor, as about the financial situations that are likely to unfold so that we can plan accordingly and understanding what that planning would look like on the ground. Is that fair?
Yep, I think that was a good summary.
Yeah.
I'll add that, because I think, James, that meeting with you, me, Carl, and Sue, for the finance committee, and I want to thank Sue for taking the time to answer all of my questions again at that meeting.
That was.
Without a lot of fun.
Idea, especially when you see more expenses coming through. We're just starting to see bills come through for September. So once we're paying them and they're on paper, it's a little easier to predict where we're going to go.
So really, as the bills come in, we'll have a better sense of what our actual expenditure is.
State for in particular industries, education, higher education, et cetera, how the outcome of the election might impact our financial health of the state is also something to consider. So just throw that out there.
Next, for the finance committee, I'm now going to shift to the planning committee and the chair, Jocelyn Apicella.
So we met last week. And discussed a revised timeline, given the fact that we had been shut down and we had meant to embark on this sooner. So he administrators. And so David and James and Carl A lot of that time will be independent, where you're reading and researching and like digesting information, and then we will have some in-person and/or virtual meetings as well over the coming months. And so, like I said, right now we're really recruiting the team, so feel free to send a letter in. If you have any questions about it, you can email Superintendent Albano about it. I think up on the website will be the coherence plan proposal, or maybe examples of others so people can take a look. I think it's a really important process at this strange stage that we're in across the country, but in our district, it's so great to do it with a new superintendent and a new principal as well. So I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, we're going to be meeting next week, hopefully as a team of our of the strategic coherence planning team on the 14th in the afternoon, maybe around 3:30. So I hope that
And I'm glad we're doing this because it's a really great moment in the history of Gus to be able to think strategically for the next 5 years. Now, a lot of people wouldn't want to do this during the COVID thing, but I actually think it's a great time to do it. And so hopefully September next year, or by the end of this year, we'll have the superintendent, the principal, the board, the community will have a strategic plan in their hand about laying out communicating back to the district exactly what outcomes, what's the profile that we would like to create for the graduates. And that's the beginning of the process.
But this is a process that really has the potential to elevate the quality of instruction and curriculum at Gus like nothing else. It's an extraordinarily exciting prospect. I would just add one other thing. The plan will not completely be created by just the committee members. There'll be a lot of outreach to the entire community. So we will be doing a thought exchange. And I must say that the previous thought exchange that we did, the surveys that we did in this community, the response rate is incredible. I mean, 95, 98%. So when this is put out there to the community, we welcome your thoughts, and everyone will have a chance to give feedback to the committee that is doing this work. So I'll look forward to that.
Thank you, Ben. Very exciting. We're going to move now to the audit committee. Again, I am the chair of your audit committee, which is also made up of Jocelyn, Matthew, and our community member, Jesse Lindenpack. You just saw the audit presentation as what we went through at our last meeting. So I will keep us moving forward and not rehash that once again. But I do want to say thank you to Jesse for volunteering. To share
community members for that committee. So if you're interested, please send over a letter.
Why not plan committee first?
Having read the facilities one, my understanding is you're looking for people with a background in architecture,
Construction, engineering, anything that may help the process, and may help this, project run more smoothly.
We welcome your input. Yeah, agreed. And I know there are a lot. We're to read the recommended. Thank you. Any questions on the minutes from anyone? Okay. Dusty, do you want me to wait for David to come back to call the roll vote?
No, because he,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks. Jocelyn Anthony?
Aye.
David excused. James Hope?
Aye.
Madeline Julian? Aye. Courtney McCarthy? Aye. Matthew Spicer? Aye. Thank you. I vote aye as well. Okay. We're going to move on to the consent agenda and personnel items. I'm going to read the recommended action. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the personnel consent agenda items 9B through I as presented.
Yes.
It's not a small job in this district. You wear many hats. You've done a lot, and you saw us through COVID so far. So I want to extend our gratitude, and we're very grateful you'll be staying with us through January. We're grateful you got us through this audit. And I wish you a wonderful retirement with your family and grandchildren. And I hope I know we'll see you many times before that. I figured the mission of grandchildren do that.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Thank you.
And that's the most important one on here. Charles, do you have anything you'd like to add for the consent agenda?
Absolutely. A deep knowledge of Garrison, 13 years of history and knowledge. And she's been very generous in sharing that and helping guide me. And that is very much appreciated, Sue. And, she told me about some of her retirement plans. And yes, they include her beautiful family and grandchildren. And we just wish her all the best. And I look forward to working with you through the end of the calendar year, Sue. And all the best to you.
Board members, if you have comments or questions on the consent agenda?
Just to say thanks to Sue. I mean, you don't end up in the fiscal health of this district has the ability to cover costs that other districts wish they could cover, the ability to provide the and the budgetary situation that the school has been going through, and this is coming on, I guess, in 2008, 2007, and so this is not the first time that Sue has experienced an economic crisis in the country and how that's impacted our district, and having lived through the cap, the implementation of the tax cap
all that has been on her watch, and we continue to be in a fiscally healthy situation. So thank you for taking care of the community and the school way you have.
Thank you.
Anyone else, any other?
I'll save mine for closer to January. Yeah. You're still stuck with us for a while.
I am. You're stuck with me for a while.
Thank goodness. What we do. I will add that there is also later down on this agenda, Carl, and we're welcoming another substitute, Don Wilkinson. Thank you for continuing to search for substitutes. I know it is a tricky market. I appreciate the ones scream from that phone. Agenda. And Matt, I'll try and make it clear then exactly what we're always voting on too. We're now on to old business. This is a request for approval to amend the 2020-2021 school calendar. I'm going to read the recommended action. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the 2020-2021 school calendar as amended. May I have a motion, please?
So
Thank you. Any questions? Carl, you want to comment?
yes, I'll just say this is a very minor change. The calendar, which was adopted back in March of 2020, had one minor error. We had a professional conference day scheduled for November 11th. That is a Veterans Day, and parents, this is just a shift of one staff professional learning day.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead with the roll call vote.
I have a
Oh, sorry.
question about the calendar.
Go ahead.
Just trying to be mindful here. November 3rd, I see a professional learning day, which happens.
That is typical for public schools, James. In fact, there's a lot of coordination of conferences, our phys ed and athletic. Are not, but many are. Yes, correct.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? I'm going to go ahead and move on. Matt? New business, approval of CSE CPSE recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education, CSE, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education, CPSE, recommendations and student placements. Do I need to read the numbers? 02001741, 0200174447, 0200172209, 37 02001 7243. Okay, Matt, this is the CPSE. We're going to CSE and CPSE. We're going to move on to a vote. Jocelyn Apicello. Aye. David Gilbert.
Aye.
James Hope.
Aye.
Madeline Julian. Aye. Courtney McCarthy. Aye. Matthew Spicer. I vote aye as well. Okay, approval of retention schedule. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District that retention and disposition schedule for the New York Local Government Records, LGS 1, issued pursuant to Article 57A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records is hereby adopted for use by all officers in legally disposing of valueless records listed therein. And be it further resolved that in accordance with Article 57A, only those records will be disposed of that are described in retention and disposition schedule for New York Local Government Records, LGS 1, after they have met the minimum retention periods described therein. Only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum periods. May I have a motion, please? Matt, this is for the retention schedule. Jocelyn Apicello. Aye. David Gilbert.
Aye.
James Hope.
Aye.
Madeline Julian. Aye. Courtney McCarthy. Aye. Matthew Spicer. Aye. I vote aye as well. Approval of transportation compensation. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adopts and authorizes a transportation contract related to student ID 17141 for the 2020-2021 school year under the compensation.
It's a lot of money. Just saying.
I just want to say, thank you, Mike. Torty set this up. Basically a parent is transporting her child to a district placement, and the district does not have to send an entire bus for one child. So this is compensation. It's all outlined by state law as far as the rate, and we do appreciate the parents' willingness to do this.
Thank you. Move to a roll call vote. Jocelyn Apicello. David Gilbert.
Aye.
James Hope.
Aye.
Madeline Julian. Aye. Courtney McCarthy. Aye. Matthew Spicer. The 2020-2021 school year contract for educational services with the Henrik Hudson Central School District as per the individualized education program for student number 53221. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Again, this is a special education contract.
Is there a contract that's supposed to be attached to our cost? I've not seen anything.
No, we don't typically, that could be made available if you'd like to see it, but we don't typically attach that just for privacy. So this is a student who's identified, of course, by number, and it's a placement because we do not have the appropriate program here within our school.
Given the size of our district, we tend not to include too much information, just so we don't know what it is. And to protect privacy. Courtney McCarthy. Aye. Matthew Spicer. Aye. I vote aye as well. Excellent. We are now at public comment. I'm going to give our public, it looks like we have a couple there, a few minutes if anyone wants to add anything into the Q&A or the chat. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns in accordance with policy 3220 of the Garrison Union Free School District. Any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Oh, you're right. Board member comment. Okay, so last time. Can you hold Matt's phone up to, can you hold your phone up to?
Board comment?
Yes,
That's what I mean, yeah, board.
I'm just sorry about my audio today, so I apologize for my, I guess I just said it, I won't say it again. But anyway, apologies.
okay. Yeah.
Work that we've been doing in the anti-racism and equity task force, which Madeline and David and then Carl as well are sitting in on. It was really an amazing training, like you said. And I don't want to steal the thunder of the task force because I know that they will eventually come present to us early in the coming in 2021. But I really think, I can't believe that these conversations that we were allowed and able to have as a small group aren't happening constantly and more often, in the public, in families' homes, and in faculty rooms and in classrooms, because they're so important and uncomfortable and difficult, but to see the growth that comes out of people through them is really, really so important, especially as we're really trying to engage young people to become responsible, empathetic, civic engagers as they age and grow up. And today I got to actually listen to a webinar that you were sitting in on it. Did anyone else sit in on it? It was an equity webinar put on by NISBA. I mean, the three gentlemen who spoke were so awesome. And just little things that they brought up about the culture of schools and how it's so important to realize that the culture, there is a dominant culture in a school, no matter what school it is, and making sure that you recognize it and then try to the terms of supremacy culture, you know, just one that is just based on power held in the middle. These gentlemen were so amazing to hear. And I just want to point out another, I mean, they even gave insight into schools going through the pandemic and saying that making this observation how there were no virtual suspensions. So there's something about the school environment was safe or familiar or free from power structures or free from supremacy or whatever it was free from. I had never thought about it before. I always thought of the or you and the whole board was willing to embark on the task force. I think as it opens up a little bit more to more faculty who I know are interested and community members, I'm sure, I think this is going to be such important personal work that then gets kind of rippled out into building a better community for our children. There's so much more to say, but if you just listen, if this is an archived webinar, I totally recommend it. It was an ISBO one for today, and there's two follow-up ones coming up. The second one is on institutionalized racism. I forget the third one. Anyway, I know Madeline listened in, so maybe you might want to say something too, but it was really great, and I'm so proud of people for at this district for going forward on it, but I'm also, I'm not that proud because we should have been doing it for the past, decades. And just relatedly, I know we're going to start moving forward with opening committee work up, like I'm sure code of conduct or environmental committee or wellness committee. So many things that we can start to engage the community around before. And I hope that as we engage all those committees again, it's always through this lens of equitable opportunity and outcomes, which I feel very strongly like in the policy committee, we really tried to plug that into every policy we could find space for it. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm going to stop because you should get me going on code of conduct anyway. But I highly recommend, I'll send the link. And now I'll stop. I know it's David's turn.
I'm also excited for those when we have a principal. I'm going to go to David then.
I have been thinking about something which in a way follows from what you were talking about, John. So this is such what we're living through is such a surreal experience for all of us, and for our kids, and for our community. And the other day I saw some stuff about how many people are losing their jobs. A lot of the big stores are closing down. Modell's, I think, closed down, and a few others in that category. And it occurred to me that this is kind of a curriculum suggestion. And this is maybe not the right time for it, but what the hell? Television, just a debate. Anyway, but so what I was thinking of was, especially for the middle school kids, to try and, 20, 30, 40 years from now, they're going to look back, they're going to be asked questions. What was it like living through that That was like the flu of 1918, but it was 2020. And to have kids have the opportunity, maybe it's more middle school than K to 5, but to actually be sort of reporters, and pardon the journalistic bias here, but to find out, how this is affecting people in their community, not just themselves, not just their parents, although there's nothing wrong with that either, but to actually inquire. I mean, are people in this community, are they out of work? How are they dealing with that? How are people dealing with all the what used to be the normal routines of life? I think that kids could do maybe collaboratively, if that's possible, some projects that really illuminate this moment for them and make this a learning experience which they will treasure, which will be useful now and which they will look back on in 30 years and say, yeah, that happened, this is what I did. I couldn't agree with you more. It's a historical moment that we're living through. And I will definitely have more communication with the staff about that, maybe some projects, but for students to reflect and what's happening in the world around them. I think it's a great suggestion, David. Thank you.
Thank you. James?
I don't think I have any comment.
Thank you. Madeline?
I'm going to keep it very short. If you're not registered to vote on this Friday is the deadline for New York State to register to vote. So just a reminder.
Thank you. It's an important. Okay. Does anyone else have further comment? We've gone around once. I'm always excited for discussion, but thank you so much. We are now. Oh no, just yet.
So what the debate?
See, I forgot my cheat sheet. I'm sorry.
I happen to find one.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby enter executive session for the purpose of discussing Ella, David Galbert, James Hook, Madeline Julian, Courtney McCarthy, Matthew. I vote aye as well. Matt, we will reconnect with you in executive session. We'll maybe just call you on Jocelyn's phone. Does that sound okay?
We'll just call you back when we start executive.
That's in a technical way.
Thank you all. Good evening. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
You want to go somewhere?
Let's go to Okay, everybody, board members, please log out of your
Should I log
computer.
out? Yeah.